Hello, welcome to this recording of Visual Studio 2022 version with a primary breaking change every developer is facing nowadays. So the primary problem is what is startup.cs and why program.cs looks totally different. So today I'm going to identify and help you understand what exactly changed and why it's not a big deal for a regular programmer who is developing application on 2017 or Visual Studio 2019 or even .NET Core 5 and apparent version. So let me jump back to my screen and let me create and showcase you parallelly the older version, that is .NET Core 5 or 3.1 and .NET Core 6. And then we will understand what difference it brings as long as startup.cs and program.cs concerns. So I'm going to create a brand new version. This is my Visual Studio 2022. And let me create a project here real quick. At the time of a creating project, let me choose language as C Sharp and let me create a Blazor server app. You can go with ASP.NET Core Web Application or Console Application. That doesn't make any change. I am selecting Blazor server app. Uh, just creating now. This time, let me choose a different folder. Startup demo. And most important here we'll say V6, that is .NET Core 6 version. And I have two .NET Core instances available right now, .NET Core 3.1 and .NET Core 6.0. Both are long-term support, that is LTS, but even you can choose .NET Core 5.x just to mimic these code files. So right now I'm choosing .NET 6.0, which is my long-term support, and I'm creating a brand new project. Now, when you create any project, whether it is Blazor, whether it is MVC, whether it is Web API, you will notice one primary breaking change in Visual Studio 2022, that startup.cs is missing. And if you verify program.cs, it's altogether different. So let me verify it here. Let me go back to program.cs, and here you will realize that program.cs looks altogether different. There is no main method. There is no startup file. So where it is? So let me add one more project to the same solution, which demonstrate the earlier version of .NET Core. So I'm selecting again Blazor Server App, and here I'm going to say Startup Demo, but this is V3, that is .NET Core V3. Let me create a project inside the same folder, and this time I'm choosing .NET Core 3.1, and let me create this project. And now I have two files. The first file, two projects. The first one is startup or start demo v3. Another project, startup demo v6. The naming convention is a little different here, but I want to showcase you parallel what exactly happening here. Before we go into detail, let's visit exactly what's happening with our earlier versions of Visual Studio, that is startup demo v3, program.cs, and startup.cs. Let's understand what exactly we were doing before. So in program.cs, our main entry point, the main method is public static void main here, and this is our entry point for this project. And when your program boot from this particular method, we are calling one more method, static method, which is written by iHostBuilder interface of a host builder. This is basically Kestrel web server, which comes with .NET Core to run the application in a singleton format. And this create host builder receives the arguments, it builds, and then it instantly runs. Now let's pay attention here what exactly happening inside this create host builder. In create host builder, we are accepting the arguments provided by .NET Runtime, of course, and then we are injecting a startup class to this web builder so that this web application will launch, will boot this startup class, which is coming from startup.cs. And in a typical startup.cs file, we always encounter two functions, two overridden functions. One is configure service, another one is configure. And both of the functions have its own significance. Configure service is primarily used to add additional service, external service. Even though you create your own service, you can add those services, and of course, you can pass the configuration parameter in a configure service method. And once you add the service or middleware uh, or dependency injectors, you can use it in configure method. So these two functions, configure service and configure, works with each other in a timely fashion. So these are the two primary methods we configure most of the time with startup class. And this startup class also offers you a dependency injection of iConfiguration interface that basically return you the configuration object to be used and called from your configuration settings from app settings.json. But that's a separate topic, another topic. And this startup class inject in program.cs as a bootstrap class. That's the basic idea behind having program.cs and startup.cs. And along with program.cs, we have imported a lot of libraries here and creating a main method. Now let me split this screen horizontally. And here, let me open this program.cs file. And let me drag this program.cs file here earlier. So at the bottom, now this program.cs is coming from my latest version of .NET Core, that is 6.0, Startup Demo V6. And this one single file program.cs, let's revisit what we are doing in this program.cs by default as a template. Of course, we are also building the builder, host builder, the exact configuration web host defaults we are providing. This host builder, the one we were earlier uh, creating in main method, we are exactly creating here using a simple static class web application. So .NET Visual Studio 2022 or .NET Core 6.0 simplifies builder creation process for Castor web server. And once we get the builder object from the argument, apparently builder object exposes the services, the same services which we used to receive in startup.cs. So if I go back to the startup.cs, here you'll realize that in a configure service, we are getting services object from iService collection as a dependency injection. Now, there are no class definition there's no class definition you can see in your latest program.cs file, but this services object is exposed by this builder. And apparently, whatever we were doing before in configure service, like add razor pages, add server-side blazor, add singleton, add any kind of a service, all those services can be added in a same program.cs file right after the builder object is being created. Now here you can also provide add singleton, add scoped, or different kind of injections, whatever you want to add as a service, you can always add in the same fashion, except one key difference that here we used to get the service object immediate. Here we need to extract that service object from the builder object, which we are creating from web application.createBuilder function. And once the builder built the instance, then exactly what we were doing in configure function that use those services like routing, static files, or even endpoints, all needs to be done using this app instance exactly from line number 22 that use HTTPS redirections, static files, routing, and then finally exactly what we were doing in the main method in program.cs. We were running the application once it is built. And that's exactly what we are doing in the latest program.cs on line number 31. We are running our application. So technically, the new Visual Studio 2022, the program.cs file is a merger of earlier program.cs and startup.cs file. Nothing has been changed. So you can always go back to the original way. You can always add your startup.cs, but from 2022 onwards, this new template becomes the default one. And I also noticed that many of our documentation pages on Visual Studio website has been updated with this latest source code. So that is the primary change from the top level. There are, of course, certainly a lot more changes are coming on the program.cs file. There are a lot more topics are being introduced. But as a programmer, one will just jump from 2019, Visual Studio 2019 to Visual Studio 2022, whether it is on Windows or now on Mac, because Visual Studio 2022 is also available now on Mac OS. Every developer will face this change. So this is what this new file is all about. Stay tuned for my upcoming next sessions around .NET Core 6.0. Thank you.